Hi, my name is Melissa West, and my presentation is on the importance of human resources in every company's success. Human resources is the unsung hero of a company's success. I'd like to start out my presentation with a quote by Simon Sinek, who is a British-American author, speaker, and consultant. Simon says that when people are financially invested, they want a return. But when somebody is emotionally invested, they want to contribute. Meaning that if all your employee cares about is just getting a check, they're not going to go that extra mile. But when someone is emotionally invested and they care about what they're doing and they care about your company, they're going to go that extra mile to make sure the company is successful because they care about it. It's not just a paycheck to them; it's so much more than that. And when you get your employees to feel an emotional attachment to your company or an emotional attachment to what they're doing, you're unstoppable. In larger organizations, the role of HR becomes even more critical because of the size and the complexity of the workforce. In larger companies, the human resources department is often divided into sub-departments. So you may have someone in that department whose responsibility is strictly talent acquisition. Their job is to go out and find talent. That may go into job fairs, social media postings, Indeed postings, making sure that their LinkedIn website profile is up to date. Then you may have the person sitting right beside them who their main responsibility is strictly insurance, onboarding, making sure that employees understand what their portion is, how much will be deducted out of their pay. If 401k is something that the company offers, making sure that they understand what the rules and guidelines are for vacation time, the raise structure. All of that is very important. And then again, you may have the person sitting next to that person whose job is employee engagement and employee training. Their job is to make sure if you're in a particular business where you have licenses, such as when I was an insurance agent, we had to make sure that we had so many credits per year of continuing education. So that person in that human resources department, that's their job, is to make sure that everyone is compliant, that everyone has gotten their continuing education that they need, and that there won't be any problems, when the year comes. And then, of course, after that, you may have another person who sits beside them, who their main job is strictly just when somebody leaves. The exit interview, finding out what could have been done different, finding out what they could have done, what the company could have done to help to make them want to stay. All those sub departments equal one crucial big human resources department. But in smaller businesses, which I myself have done before, you usually have one person who wears all the hats. So, for instance, at my previous job, I did everything from creating the Indeed post to updating our LinkedIn profile to the interviewing to the onboarding, the getting the direct deposit set up, explaining the insurance, explaining the benefits, if there was a problem, seeing it was time for raises, for bonuses, doing those evaluations, giving praise. I've always liked to do an employee of the month. I think it's great for people to be recognized. People may say they don't care, but everybody enjoys being recognized. It makes us feel good. We're human. So in a smaller business, I wore all of those hats. The HR process follows 3 key phases. First is planning, which identifies an organizational needs, set of objectives, and ensures alignment with business goals. Second is implementation, where HRs put together strategies into action through recruitment, training, and engagement initiatives. The third is evaluation, where outcomes are measured using data and feedback to refine processes and improve impact. Together, these phases form a cycle of continuous improvement in the HR strategy. Years ago, maybe 40 or 50 years ago, your HR department and your administrative department and your secretary were all in one. It has just become here in the last, maybe 80s, 90s and on, that HR has really become its own department and its own unique set of skills it takes to do HR. I recently finished a course through Coursera, which is sponsored by Google, and have my HR certification. And there's a lot more that went into it than I realized now. But human resources is essential for fostering a positive workplace culture that enhances employee satisfaction and retention. It takes a lot to train a new employee. I think on average it has been said that it takes about $1,500 to get an employee up and going. That is the time it takes to train them, to interview, to onboard them, to get their direct deposit set up, get their insurance set up, to train them, answer any questions they may have. That's a lot of money for a company to spend on an employee that they're not going to treat right and they don't care if leaves next month. So employee retention is crucial to a company's success as well. HR also plays a critical role in aligning employee skills with business goals, ensuring efficiency and productivity across all levels. So we all have our unique skills. One of mine has always been sales. I've always been able to get in front of a huge crowd and give a presentation with no problems. Other coworkers I've had weren't able to do that, but they were a lot more organized than I am when it comes to paper and getting administrative tasks done. So our boss was very, very, very intelligent, and he knew that the best thing for the business's success was to put his employees where they were good at. So I went into sales, my coworker went into administrative, and sales support, because that's where her strengths were. And no one should ever be able to be made to feel that they are less of just because you're not out in the sales field. I take it back to back when I've managed restaurants. I used to drive me insane to see servers or bartenders drop their plates off with food all over it and not scrape it for the dishwasher just because, it's the dishwasher. Try running a restaurant on a busy Friday or Saturday night without a dishwasher. It's impossible. It really is. That dishwasher is just as important as the sous chef, as the bartender making the drinks, or the hostess, just as important. So part of human resources is making sure that everyone feels valued and appreciated, no matter their department, no matter their skill, because we all have to start somewhere. Effective HR strategies contribute to an organization's growth by facilitating talent development and driving innovation in both small and large companies. So it is very important to always want to constantly find ways to train and improve your employees' skill sets. Education and knowledge are just crucial for humans. It's natural for us to want to learn. We're curious, and we also can get bored very easily. So a crucial part of a human resource department is to find ways to keep employees engaged and keep employees interested in what's going on, and that is through training and putting on seminars and different training classes. The key benefits for human resources are talent acquisition, which is where an effective HR practice is to enable businesses to effectively find talent that will drive them to success. Another one is employee development. Human resources foster a culture of continuous learning, enhancing an employee's skills and maximizing their potential for their personal and organizational growth. And compliance and risk management. Human resources ensures that businesses adhere to labor laws and regulations, mitigating risk and protecting the company from legal issues. It is so easy to, even by accident, break a rule or to not be compliant. So it is the human resources job and human resources department to make sure that managers are aware of what their responsibilities are to keep the company on the right track, and so forth and so forth. For instance, I was a manager at a local company, and primarily teenagers were my crew. And there was I had two young ladies who went to the same school. One was a cheerleader, one was in the band, and the cheerleader started this bullying, and that is definitely against the law. That is harassment. And I had to, one of my jobs as a manager, and since I was also the HR representative, was to make sure they knew that this isn't high school. You're not going to get detention. There are huge fines, huge lawsuits that can arise from bullying. So it is very important that I made sure they realize that you're in the real world now, and that type of behavior is that, for one, it's not going to be I'm not going to tolerate it because it's just wrong. But there's also a business standpoint to look at where it can cost your employer a lot of money, which can end up meaning you lose your job. So we talked about HR in large companies and the crucial role that they play. We've also hit on the smaller companies. As I said, a lot of times in a smaller company, you'll have one person who will wear the hat of the human resources. They're doing everything. Now we're going to go through the human resource process. There are 3 key phases, and I'm going to touch on each of those. Step 1 is to start with a thorough planning to identify an organization's needs, set objectives, and ensure alignment with overall business goals for an effective HR strategy. So what a good HR employee or team member would do is to have a meeting with the managers, CEOs, or even, just their boss, that one person, and find out, hey, what's our goals? What do we want 2026 to look like? And they explain, okay, then the HR department's job to say, okay, this is what my goals are. This is what I need. This is the type of talent that I need to fulfill those goals. So then that goes on to them to write an accurate posting, like for Indeed, to go to job fairs, to contact schools. If they have graduating classes who will fulfill that particular niche, that is a very important step. Which step 2, then that leads to the strategies developed, the planning phase, focusing on recruitment, training, and employee engagement to optimize workforce performance. So when I know the goals of my boss, what our 2026 goals are, I can say, hey, this is what we have from this person. So I don't have that type of employee that fits that. Where can I find it? Or is it something I can also offer my current employees? So that gives employees a chance for growth and to improve their skill set, which gives them more money, to support our families. And then 3 is to evaluate the outcomes achieved through human resource initiatives, gathering feedback and data to refine processes and enhance the overall impact of a business. I recently learned through trial and error, I was told I needed to get more employees to work our tree cutting business, that I needed trimmers and chippers and CDLs, and an employee with CDL license, which is commercial driver's license. Well, I didn't realize that the commercial driver's license part was going to be only once in a while. We just need someone to drive, to take equipment from one place to the next when the general manager isn't available. So what I was actually ended up looking for and what I posted for on Indeed was for someone to use CDLs full time. That was my mistake. That's where there wasn't clarity. So it's really important for the Human Resources Department to make sure that they have a clear expectation of what the goals are before moving forward, and that will ensure that their outcome is achieved. The concepts for business success. Again, we touched on employee engagement. Engaged employees are more productive and foster a positive workplace culture. And an employee who is not burned out and bored and just looking at the clock and saying, oh my gosh, I read a quote by Mark Zuckerberg, who said, enhance your employees so that they're not using your internet to look for their next job. Keep them involved. Keep everything interesting and learning. The second part is for performance management. Effective performance management aligns employees' goals with organizational objectives for growth. Talk to your employees. A human resources department is where the employees can, it's like, remember back in high school, and if you had a problem, you went to the counselor, or you talked to the counselor to fill out your classes for next year. They ask you what electives you wanted to take. In the real world, your human resources department is your counselor. They are that person that you go to with any problems you have or any ideas for growth. So it's to talk to them about your ideas for growth and see what's available. A lot of times companies are more than happy to pay for education, pay for a class or certification, especially knowing that it'll enhance their own bottom line. And diversity and inclusion. Embracing diversity boosts initiative and enhances team collaboration across all levels. We're human again, and humans are naturally faulty creatures, and we all have a habit of staying in our own little safety bubble, and not reaching out. And what happens when we don't reach out and go out of that safety net, that safety bubble, is that we don't get to see the world from other perspectives, and we don't learn from those other perspectives. And it is the human resources job to make sure that that a company's not just hiring all, I don't want to say anything wrong, say anything impolitically correct, that they're not just hiring all white men in their 30s with college degrees who are in fraternities. When there's so much more that you can learn from someone who maybe just came over from India, who probably may know 10 times more than our white 30-year-old male who with a college degree in fraternity. So it's really important to get a diverse workforce, because we can all learn from each other and learn and respect and appreciate everybody's different cultures and learn from it. And that is where a company really starts to thrive and succeed. Like the key HR responsibilities, the key human resource responsibilities are attracting top talent for your organization. So, you're going through all the candidates. You just don't pick the first 5 that apply to your company. You check references, you check skills, you ask questions, you provide tests, quizzes. You look and see to make sure that applicant that you're possibly going to bring into your company is the very best. Because once again, you have those goals that your manager or CEO or boss said that they want to achieve. And you can't achieve those goals if you just have mediocre talent. Also, facilitate employee training and development programs. Currently, I am the office manager for a tree cutting company. So our job is to keep all of the trees trimmed off the power lines for the utility companies. That is a very, very dangerous job. And so one of my responsibilities is to facilitate training for them, to remind them, hey, make sure you don't do this, or to do this in case you do hit a power line, or to watch out for this. Sometimes, even I don't care how long you've been doing a job, it's always good to have a refresher just to remind you, because sometimes we can get stuck doing our things our way and forget that the right way to prevent an accident is this way. Managing competitive compensation and salary structures. Your human resources department is also going to be the ones who usually will do your evaluation. They will speak to your supervisors. Then they will go in there and speak with you as well. And usually are the ones who give the raises. They're the ones who make sure that a company is currently in line with what other companies are paying. They also are the ones who make sure that wage compression is taken care of. And wage compression is a very, very, very big problem for companies. What that means is that you have someone who's been with you for 5 years. They started out at $10 an hour. They get a $1 raise every year. Well, now they're making 16, but you have someone coming in where the starting pay around other companies is 16. What do? That's wage compression, because you don't want to pay someone starting out what your loyal 5-year employee is making. So there's a fine line there on how to handle that. 85% of employee satisfaction is due to increased productivity and morale. Increases employee satisfaction by 85%. Strong retention reduces training costs and turnover by 75%. These are real numbers, and these will affect a company's bottom line. As I said before, it takes a lot of money and time to train a new employee. If your HR crew member is making $25 an hour, and you just hired an employee who is making $18 an hour, and that HR representative spends 120 hours on them, and then that's quite a bit of money. And then for that person just to turn around and leave and quit, that's all wasted income. That's all income that can't be generated, that didn't generate anything that is going to help the company's bottom line of success. Richard Branson was the founder of the Virgin Group. He says, clients do not come first. Employees come first. If you take care of your employees, they will take care of you. And that is so true. Yes, we all want employees. I'm sorry, we all want clients. Clients are what pays the bills. But if you have clients without employees, it's kind of like putting the cart in front of the horse. You're not going to be successful that way. So it is extremely important to take care of your employees. We're slowly but surely getting away from the mindset of the 70s and 80s, and it's parts of the 90s where you go to work, you be thankful for a job, they can treat you any way they want to, blah blah blah, and you go home. That, thank goodness, is slowly, that culture is being done away with. And now, and I think I give thanks to the generations X and Y, the millennials, that have said, no, we're not going to tolerate that. We want to be treated with respect. And I'm so glad they have, because it is crucial to a company's success to treat your employees with the utmost respect. Pay your employees what they're worth. And all this goes down to the Human Resources Department. They are the unsung heroes of any company's success. Thank you so much for your time, guys.